Welcome back, everyone, to Own Your Gifts. It's a show created by myself and my legendary co-host, Joey Pilara here. For the next 45 minutes, we're going to help teach and share age-old, cutting-edge tips, tools, exercises, and hacks to plug into the higher force of gratitude. We also are incredibly blessed to have a special guest join us each week to share their own experiences and give us all an opportunity to ask them any questions. Welcome back, Joey. How you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I'm so glad to be starting a second season. We have some amazing guests lined up. This was, it's we're going to try to make a difference. We're here to share our truths and share how we live a full, robust life of purpose, and share what we have, tools and tips that we have learned over the years of being in recovery and working with people in recovery, and living the other way, and hopes that people can learn the power of gratitude and learn the simple tools to be able to plug into it at will to increase their happiness.
Absolutely. Joey, I forgot to say, and anyone who's watching, and there's a few people watching already, please let us know where you're watching from. Welcome. If you're joining us for the first time, I hope you enjoy, and if you're rejoining us, welcome back. I'd love to introduce our special guest today, Trinka. Let's bring her onto the screen. Hey, Trinka. Hey.
Hey, Daddy.
How you doing, Trinka?
I'm all right. Nice to see
Welcome.
you.
Nice to see you too. You've met my wonderful co-host from New Jersey City, Joey.
Yep.
Yeah,
We had a
Trinka.
bit of a chat.
We're glad that you're here.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello to Kenny. Kenny's over in, I think, Texas. Kenny's in Texas. And Daniel, hello, mate. Joey, what have we got on the show today, mate? How are we kicking this off?
We like to start the show with each of us touching on briefly something that we've done well today. I like to call them wins, and something that that perhaps we're struggling with today, and that we're going to aim to do better tomorrow. Danny, you want to kick us off?
This is my daily inventory, Joey. I love it, and this is one of those tools that I've used, mostly for the last 10 years on a daily basis, just to sort of check in with myself. So to answer your question, something I've done well today was, get up early and hit the gym. And not only just hit the gym, but also be able to connect with some people. It's like my community outside of my recovery community. It's something that I hold really dear, and it's something that keeps me sane. So I got to say good morning and have a quick chat with a couple of the members over at the gym. And something that I'm struggling with, and something that I'd like to do better. I think at times I can, and I see myself do this. It's self-obsession, actually. I just want to name it that. But at times I can go into my shell a little bit and be afraid to speak up for what I wanted to say because I might feel embarrassed or something. And it happened to me yesterday, actually. And I just thought, why do you do that, Danny? So that's something I work on a daily basis, actually. Joey, Trinks, something you've done well today or maybe yesterday, and something you could possibly work on tomorrow. What do you think?
Sure. I just wanted to say, firstly, that because this is something I really forget to do, is to remind myself, or I've gone through stages in my recovery where I have, written down in a journal the things that I have done well. My head is naturally geared to what I should have done, what I could have done, what I'm not doing, which really, shrinks you as a person. And even just you saying, when you said, oh, we're going to start the show by talking about something I've done well, it instantly made me feel good. Like,
great.
So I'm going to take this, and say, as some evidence that, yes, this does work, and, apply it into my recovery program again, moving forward. But what I did well today is here in Sydney, it's fucking, I don't know if you can swear on this, but it's really cold.
You can do whatever you want.
Okay. And it's really hard to get out of bed. And so I got up, not early. I hit the alarm button, slept for another half an hour, but I did get up and go for a walk. I drank some water before breakfast. So that's something I did well. You know, it energized me. I felt very reinvigorated after going for a walk in the cool. And something that I could be doing better is food. Again, food is just, you know, when I came into recovery and early recovery, I used to hear, you know, people that had some time up talk about their food addiction, and I just used to snap out of it, man. Like I'm hanging out, I'm coming off narcotics, and now I'm one of those people that sits, you know, and talks about you know, my food addiction, and it is cold, and I am going through some stuff, and I'm doing a lot of comfort eating, and I'm really struggling to get some sense of control on it. So work on that. I've got the rest of the day today. It's morning, you know, morning here in Australia, so I've got the rest of the day to focus on that.
Good on you, Trinks. It's an ongoing saga, isn't it? The food recovery.
And it's so insidious as well.
And you feel dirty and chatty and sick and lazy and like a slug. I do anyway. Sorry, Joey. Yeah, sure, you're right. Joey, what have you got for us today, mate?
Hey, I know we're supposed to keep this quick, so I'm going to do that. But I just want to thank both of you because, like, both of your wins and what you're working on is just opens up a Pandora's box worth of stuff to discuss, and it's important that I get reminded of this. So, you know, one of the things that I did well today is I was of service to a couple different people. Which means I got outside of myself, which means that I wasn't thinking of myself, which is that's like the seas parting in my world, and I think that's common amongst a lot of people in addiction. But I did do some service today, and you know, I also decided that that I was going to take it easy with work, which gave me the time to be able to just step away from the grind and help somebody else. But the thing that I'm struggling with today is directly related to that. And this is a constant struggle for me, is when, I allow myself to slow down and have some unfocused time or some time where I'm not grinding. I always find myself consciously like getting out of the present moment and thinking about what I should be doing. And you touched on that, Trinka. And it's like, come on, man. It's like, it's okay for you to take a half a day. It's sunny. You know what I mean? It's beautiful. You work hard. And you're going to have an opportunity to help somebody in your family. But it was just like this back and forth battle. It's like, oh, I should be at work, or I should be at my desk, or I should be at the gym. And so that's my struggle, and that's something that I want to try to do better tomorrow. But I could tell you, for me, that's an ongoing battle. That's a daily battle for me.
Sure. Thanks.
I relate to that.
I just wanted to touch on and say hello and welcome to everyone who's joined us. There's been a bunch of comments. We appreciate having you on the show. And Joey, I don't know if you know, well, you don't know actually, but Trinka and I have kind of shared our recovery journey for the last. I would go back to 2008. Trinka, I hope you don't mind me. I just want to share one thing. I don't know if I've ever told you this. I think I probably have, but I've got this memory of Trinka back in 2008. I was just entered into like a treatment center, and I was in the horrors. I had no idea about my future.
Like, what's he going to say?
and Trinka was ahead of me, actually. She was, I think she was about 6 months clean, right? And I remember we're on our way somewhere. We're in the back of the van, and I remember Trinka being in there and us having this discussion. I remember just kind of like this really unrealistic, it's kind of vivid, but it's like, how do you get to 6 months clean? And had like this fantasy and hope I could possibly have that one day. And actually, as it happens, I think we're both relapsed since then, and thank God we're back. But yeah, Trinko, that's a memory I've got of you, and it's a really, really powerful memory too, because what you gave me that day was hope. You know that that there's hope for the future, and that I can do this too. You know, so I just wanted to share that with you.
Beautiful, Danny. I know I didn't know that. I didn't. Yeah, obviously didn't know that I gave you that in that moment.
That's cool, and like the recovery community is quite it's quite small, especially here in Sydney, Joey. We I get involved in a lot of fellowship stuff and get involved in the community, and so those relationships, I don't know, like a relationship that Trinka and I have over the last 11 years, it means a lot because people are still around and we're doing the same thing, and it's really encouraging for others to. So yeah, thanks so much for that, Trinka.
And just seeing each other's lives unfold, I think, you know, the good times, the not so good times, seeing people, you know, get through different struggles and achieve different things. It's something that's really special. Like growing up, I went to a lot of different schools, and I never had long-term friendships because we were always moving. And being in recovery, I think that's one of the greatest gifts that being in recovery has given me, is the relationships, the long-standing, authentic relationships that I've been able to develop. And, you know, even though me and Danny don't see each other an awful lot, because we have known each other, you know, for a long time and have, you know, kind of been there from the beginning and watched each other's journey and have similar journeys, there is that connection there.
You know, Trinky, you just mentioned watching each other's journey and success, and I've actually watched you over the last, say, let's say 6 or 7 years, especially, really skyrocket in your direction and what you're doing, your passion, and absolutely, that's what this show is about. Would you like to? And look, I remember we were both studying. You're probably still studying, but I used to really admire your dedication. Like you would lock yourself down, and you were eating healthy. You had food in the cupboard.
I don't know how I did it.
And I remember honestly do it. But
I don't know.
Like that.
No, I'm not studying at the moment. I think, look, I came into recovery. I never worked. I had I had a long criminal history, a criminal record. I knew I couldn't go back. I knew I didn't want to go back to that life, but I also didn't know what recovery had to offer me. You know, I got clean at 35, and I had no idea what to do. So I kind of started TAFE, and because other people had, you know, suggested I do that, you know, dealing with kind of social services was something that I knew. I'm a bit of an empath and could see myself working in the community services sector. So, you know, I just kind of went to TAFE, did the Cert 3, the Cert 4, and then, you know, diploma, and then kind of went on and decided to do uni, which, you know, I look back on that phase of my life, and honestly, Danny, I don't know how I did it. Like it really affected my mental health in the end, you know, and I've really had to, and I burnt out, you know. I heard you, Joey, talking before when we did that, you know, one thing you could do better about, you know, not allowing yourself some downtime. And because I came into recovery and I felt I had so much lost time to make up for. It was all about achieving. That recovery meant social acceptability. So, you know, and I learned that. Sorry, I'm at work. And what I came to understand is that for me, being busy became like a drug as well, because I was able to keep running from myself. It stopped me being able to feel, you know, and it took its toll. I was burning the candle at both ends for a long time, and it took a toll on my mental health. And I've really had to, self-compassion has been a massive part. Learning how to be compassionate and loving towards myself has been a huge part of my healing journey, and learning to slow down and giving myself permission to stop and, you know, meet my needs, how my body tells me that my needs need to be met, not kind of what's going on up here. So yeah, I related to you when you were saying that, but just being more gentle on myself and pausing. And I've got a little dog, which Danny's obviously seen on Facebook, which a little puppy, which has just been absolutely amazing for that. You know, she grounds me. Yeah, best decision, one of them.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong having an animal in the house.
No,
you know, they teach you so much.
I got one too. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, everyone's got the
I
animals.
can't believe you finally got a cat, Danny.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
well, I got the cat for Amalia. I say that anyway, you know, but really, it's a good excuse to get a cat for the kid, and it's a cat that doesn't shed hair, which is important to me. So, hey, Drink, is something you were just saying, and I think anyone out there in recovery and coming from our background might relate, is we get a little bit obsessive and compulsive around, like we do things, we don't half measures availed us nothing, you know, we get stuck straight into it. So I absolutely get that, you know.
I could definitely relate to that entire mindset, and for me, it was like when I first got sober, and I got sicker before I got any better. I got a lot sicker before I got any better, and that was, you know, in a program of recovery and being really consistent in that program of recovery and taking direction in that program of recovery. And it wasn't that the program of recovery was broken. It was just that, like, I was numbing myself for decades with alcohol and drugs, and it was the only way that I knew how to live. And you know, I'd be careful. We're kind of careful about saying I decided, because I don't think I decided to get sober. To tell you the truth, I definitely didn't decide to get sober. It was a divine intervention of some sort. You know, I was blessed with willingness, and I kept going. And there was a point in my recovery, about a year or two down the line, where I committed to recovery. And you guys both mentioned the times where you felt like you reached that point where you got a little hope, right? And it's the reason why, you know, recovery communities work, whatever they are, is you get around people who have walked the path that you're on, and so they have a common problem and a common solution, and it's really why it works. But I remember when I had my first ounce of hope, and you know, it was a couple years down the road, and it wasn't when that obsession to drink and use was lifted. That actually turned out to be one of the scariest moments of my life, because you know, it was the only tool that I had that I knew how to live in it. And not only was it lifted from me, something that really amounts to the parting seas, or you know, walking on water, or the burning bush, in my opinion, because, you know, that was always on my back. But when it was lifted, it was also removed, meaning I knew that I couldn't go back. It was no longer a solution for me, and it was a pivotal moment in my recovery, because that's when I actually surrendered. It wasn't leading up to that when you know, I put down the drinking and the drug and entered a program of recovery. It's when what they promised me actually happened, when I knew for sure that it wouldn't happen. That was when I hit my knees and asked for help for the first time, and I dropped that at a debate of what that help looks like. Meaning, I don't need to understand it. I just need to know that it's working for me, that it's always been working for me, and I just have to figure out ways to plug into it. But the first time I actually felt hope that I could live a sober life, no matter what came down the pipe. I was I was in a men's meeting. I was living in Utah, and I was about two and a half years sober. And there was a guy in there. I don't know, man. He was sober a decent amount of time, maybe like 10, 15 years. And he came walking in, and he had just lost 3 of his sons in a car accident. All 3 of them dead. And I just watch this guy go through that and not drink and not drug and not turn himself into a victim and hold his head up high and turn toward to be of to service others. And I don't know, there was a real turning point for me when I actually felt like hopeful that I could, you know, actually do this thing, and that I could, you know, that I could commit to it and continue to stay sober. But I got, like I mentioned before, I really wasn't free from myself until another 5 or 6 years, when I was about 6 years sober. And you also mentioned the food thing. That was what I turned to. That was the next thing in line that I tried to kill myself with. And I got myself up to 415 pounds, and I was sicker than when I got to recovery, and I had a $300 a day dope habit, and I was coming off the street. So I can really relate to a lot of what you guys were saying.
You know, that subject of hope is, and I've just thought of something. Subject of hope is so important when we're out there on the bone to our ass trying to, and having no hope for the future is something that I certainly gained in seeing people ahead of me sharing their experience, strength, and hope. It's incredibly powerful. But I was just thinking then, like, maybe we could all share. And I wonder what your two stories are around this. But when the obsession and compulsion, you know, that drive, that force left you, because for me in the early days, it took about 12 months that I still had that obsession and compulsion to throw my life away, with that voice in the back of my head saying, you know, Danny, maybe just one more time, or this is too hard. This, you're never going to get better. I used to think I was the sickest person in the room for some time. Not that long, actually. It's just a fraction of my recovery. But the obsession and compulsion, I wonder, and I think we've got a lot of people watching, and if you feel like there's no hope for the future and you will never lose that obsession and compulsion, I'd love just to hear from both of you guys. Like, has it left you both? Trinka, has it left you, and when did it leave you, and how did that process go for you?
Look, I feel like I was really fortunate this time, Danny, that obsession and compulsion left me pretty quickly when I went into rehab this time. I'd been in and out of rehabs for a number of years, and would usually end up in rehab because I was either homeless or I wanted to stay out of jail. But while I was in rehab, sometimes I was using in rehab, not kind of putting the kind of joining the dots that you're in rehab because you can't stop using, like you've got a problem. But still, it was always, as soon as I get out of here, I'm going to use. And I think my last relapse, it was no kind of external rock bottom. It was a spiritual, emotional and mental rock bottom, and I was absolutely suicidal. And I'd seen it. I had seen recovery work for other people. You know, there were people that I was in rehab with many years ago that now, you know, had years in sobriety, had families, had careers. So I knew it wasn't just blind faith, that, you know, there was something in this thing. I tried it many times before, but I tried to do it my way, and I didn't want to stop using, you know, but, and I guess that recognition that the first one does the damage, you know, I really struggled for a long time with that concept of me having a disease and that I have an allergy to drugs and alcohol. And the last time I picked up, I knew that it wasn't going to be just one, and I kind of got into a rehab in a really, really desperate state, and I just knew that it was never an option for me anymore. You know, drugs they were off the table, and I think because I came to that revelation on a really deep level, there was no way my disease could kind of come at any angle with it. You know, if a kind of thought came, it was like, not an option. That's not an option. We need to do something else, you know. So and I completely surrendered, you know. I just, you know, accepted that I actually have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. I just need to listen to other people and just be told, you know, follow direction. I do still think about it, you know. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie, like I used for a really long time. I still have thoughts, and I can still kind of think, oh, geez, I'd love to, you know, being present 24/7 for years on end. Like, it's an extreme sport. Like, if I thought I could do it any other way, I would, you know, because it is a little bit brutal at times. Sorry,
But-
I lost my. Yeah.
Yeah, but what you're saying is basically, so it's possible, and it has been possible for you to have enough. You've come in this last time. How long ago are we talking, Trinks?
8 years and a couple of months now, which
Congratulations, it's so
yeah.
amazing. Yeah, 8 years ago. So 8 years ago, you were able to enter, and you've had enough. So really, the last 8 years has not been about, oh no, I want to use again. It's like, how the hell am I going to learn to live without it?
Learning to live, yeah, absolutely. It's about learning to live.
Joey, what about you, mate? Has the obsession compulsion to use mind or mood altering substances left you, and how did it leave you?
Like I mentioned before, yes, you know, at that day, I was about a I don't know, maybe like 6-7 months sober. Yeah. And how I was living my life at that point was I had just gotten out of a 3-month program, and I was in a halfway house, and I was going to an outpatient program, and I was in a recovery community, and I was meeting with a mentor in that program and taking direction. And I was getting to a meeting every day. And beyond that, I was sleeping 20 hours a day. I was obsessing about suicide. I was obsessing about using, and that's how my days went. And I really wasn't honest about it with everybody, but I hadn't used, and I was like meeting the minimum requirements in all those areas. But I didn't have a desire to drink or use to stop. And I've been clean off alcohol and drugs a handful of times over my 20+ year career, and I never wanted to stop. I would stop. You know, I would get pushed into a situation or backed into a corner where I would just be at the end of the line, or I would get pushed in, you know, a nudge from the judge or boss or family. I would stop, and I would do whatever anyone told me to do, and tell everybody what they wanted to hear until the smoke cleared, and I would go back doing to what I needed to do. And sometimes that was 6 months, sometimes that was a year and a half, sometimes it was whatever. Well, however long it took for some people to start looking the other way, that's when I went back in. And when I got and when I checked into detox on August 20th, 2009, that was my stance. I hadn't had enough yet. It was still like, you would think, I say it's still working for me, because the pain associated with not having it, and the relief, the little bit of relief that it gave me, no matter how small it was, far outweighed any consequences that are tied to it. And I had most consequences short of death or any type of long-term jail. So that's insanity. So I'm not really describing, you know, people who are addicted might be able to relate. People who aren't probably won't. It sounds insane because it is insane. I have been restored to sanity. But, you know, on that day when I hit my knees and I asked for help, when it was lifted from me, and that terrified me because I didn't have it in my back pocket anymore. Since that day, I've been granted a perfect release. I have not had a serious thought of a drink or a drug in almost 12 years. Wow. I've had a passing thought, but nothing like a desire or an obsession. However, I am actively engaging on my recovery on a daily basis. Yeah, so there's two things I know for sure is that I don't ever have to drink or drug again. And I absolutely will. I will drink or drug again if I don't keep two things really close. One is the pain, and two is the gratitude. If those two things don't get too far apart, I have a shot today. And that requires me being in recovery communities. It requires having my head in my recovery. It requires me doing a whole lot every single day. And I have experimented with pulling back a little bit. I mean, nobody does this perfectly. And what works for me might not work for you. But when I get even a little bit away from my truth, I go really far out to sea, man. Like I start to, it takes me a few days, and I'm just like, I'll go to a meeting, or I'll talk to one of my people who are in recovery, and I'll be like, what is this person talking about? Like, I'm not like them. Like, so one of the, alcoholism, I like the acronym insanely short memory for ISM, insanely short memory. You probably heard lots of different acronyms for ISM. And that's the thing, is I have an insanely short memory. I'll forget if I'm not actively engaged in my recovery. So yeah, I have been granted a perfect release. And you know what? It's not like that for everybody. I've been blessed, and I have been consistent and willing. And you know what? Most people just don't make it, man. So if you are somebody who's in recovery, stay. A lot of times you'll hear, don't leave before the miracle happens. Like, I think it's more like, be the miracle. Because if you are in a room of recovery, or you are committed, if you are sober today, you're the miracle. Go be the miracle. Don't wait around for it.
Cool. Joey, look, I love that you just mentioned that not everyone has that same journey, and it's actually quite unique that all three of us have got a kind of similar story in that. But there's one similarity between us, and it's that we've all kept an engaging program of recovery, and I think that's key. You just touched on that. For me, if I can just share, like, it's very similar to Trinket too, although I was never able to get more than 13 days. I remember 13 being the magic number. I could never fucking get past 13 days. But this last time around, I don't know, maybe I was just beat, but something a little bit different happened. For the first time in my life, I went to throw it all away. I went to get on, but I did that consequential thinking, and who doesn't? Everyone does consequential thinking, but for the first time in my life, I actually said, you know what? So I'd committed. I was going to do it, but then I said, nah, fuck it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to try this other way. And a miracle I have never, and that was literally 11 years, 7 months ago. I never really come close, absolutely, to picking up again. And I think the thing that I have done is I've communicated, I've spoken about my feelings, something I've never done before. I always thought I can do this on my own. It's like, I can't do this. I need others to help me do this. So I think that's a powerful message just for anyone out there who's in the early days and struggling and feels like there's no hope for the future. Like, there's no fucking shortcuts. Yeah, we've all said exactly the same thing. We got engaged and got stuck into the program, that we know. So yeah, I think that's amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah, there's so much juicy. Oh, I'm sorry, Trinket. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Danny was saying something about, asking for help. And I think for me, I had that same old thing that, I kind of had to grow up quick from a really young age. So, because of, my family, and I just went through life thinking that I knew everything, that there was nobody that could tell me anything that I didn't already know. So when it came to kind of rehabs and speaking to professionals, my attitude was, you haven't walked in my shoes. You don't know what it's like. You'd use too if this happened to you. And because I had that level of desperation, not on an external level, but on an internal level, and I knew that recovery worked for other people, it opened me up to willingness and being able to acknowledge and realize that I actually didn't know, because every time, I'd probably been into rehab about 10 times, and every time I tried to do it my way, and I'm a slow learner with a lot of things. You tell me don't touch something, I'll fucking touch it 10 times, but I have to come to my own conclusion about that it's hot and it's going to burn me and it might get infected, so it took it was a bit of a process, but I finally got there in the end, and I was willing to listen. If you had more clean time than me, if you were, working, I did what I was told to do because I knew shit. And that was it. And it was freeing. It was really freeing, actually.
It's amazing. It's amazing what happens when we just make a different decision than listening to our heads and doing what other people suggest. It's something we've fought our whole lives, or me as well, just like you just touched on there, Trinks. Trinks, can you please tell us a little bit more about what you're doing today? Would you like to share what you're doing, like work-wise? And just before you get started, I just want to say hello to everyone. There's been a bunch of people on here supporting you, Trinks.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, Trink says hi to everyone, and we're really grateful to have you all with us. Trinket, tell us a little bit about what you're doing today.
So at the moment, I've had a number of different roles since I've come into recovery, and at the moment, I'm not studying. I finished my bachelor of social work, and currently I'm working in an Aboriginal community controlled organisation. It's a tiny organisation that's doing amazing things, and I'm supporting mums that have got child protection involvement. So helping mums keep their kids in care or to, get their children back. And that is, something that I'm really passionate about because I lost my son. He was removed from my care because of my addiction. So it's something that I can, really identify with and understand. And, in the organisation that I'm in, I can share my lived experience with the women that I work with, which has been so therapeutic. And because I've worked in other services, kind of big organisations in drug and alcohol and the like, where I've not been able to share my lived experience. They obviously know I have a history because of my criminal record, but I'm not allowed to share. I'm not allowed to use my lived experience as a therapeutic tool. So I actually love that I can share my lived experience, and I get the feedback that, it's probably one of the best things that's helped. Otherwise you're just really another worker. The people that access these services like myself have dealt with, social workers and counsellors, and all their lives, and yeah.
It's so much more powerful, isn't it? Like, you're getting robbed if you're in a job and you can't share your experience.
So isn't it? It's an untapped resource. Like, I think these kind of big, organizations really don't grasp the value, especially, in drug and alcohol or anything, or trying to overcome any kind of adversity. If someone has shared that experience, it's like a direct line to trust. Okay, I might listen because you've been there and you've overcome.
Especially, there's so much power in that, knowing, because of course I relate to that. I remember that, especially if it's someone who you even had a bit of a history with, and they're like years down the track working in a service. At first, you go bullshit. You're not clean. That's rubbish,
Like, what, you're not even on methadone? I'm like, no, nothing. I don't even smoke, like nothing.
Hey, I've even worked with Trinker one stage there briefly, didn't we? We were at Rainbow Lodge together.
Oh,
we were.
Yeah.
Briefly, and we were in MCAR together back in the day in 2008.
I was a bit naughty during that treatment period.
Early days drinks, it's progress, not perfection.
That's it. He's frozen.
I think you froze there. It's all good.
Who froze, me or Drinker?
Yeah, you froze.
You're back on now, don't worry.
Yeah. No, I think I think if we are looking to uncover our purpose, it's always a really good thing to look towards our adversity. Like, we're all three of us are situated in a way where the toughest things that we went through, whether they were self-inflicted or not, whether they were whether we were or victims of circumstance or actual victims or just simply, victims of a disease and making lots of poor choices or whatever it is, having gone through that, walk those, and come out the other side and sustained it over time puts us in a unique position to be of service to somebody else when nobody else can. I could only speak for myself, and I'm pretty stubborn, and I also didn't want to give up alcohol and drugs. But if I went into treatment and they had those rules, you know, they had counselors in there, and people who worked there, and the rules were, and I won't say where I went because everybody might get in trouble, but this is the truth. The rules were that they're not supposed to divulge that stuff. They're not supposed to divulge that, okay, yeah, they are doctors, or they are counselors, or they are social workers, or they are staff, but they're also people in recovery. If the people that were trying to help me hadn't been people who actually knew what I was going through, I would have walked right the hell out of there. There would have been zero chance of it. And I think it's really important. It's specific. I think this is probably true in a lot of areas of life, but specifically with recovery and alcoholism and drug addiction. I mean, for hundreds of years, you know, there was no solution for these people. Like there was no, it's either, you know, you end up in jail or you end up dead, or they put you under lock and key. And, you know, the best scientists, the best doctors, the best philosophers, the best, you know, theologians, the minds of that time were the same as the minds today. It's like they didn't know anything about it more than they do now. Like the smartest people in the world who dedicated their lives to trying to help an alcoholic and a drug addict couldn't. It wasn't until you know, people got together who actually, you know, lived the life of the person that they're trying to help. And if you know, I really like this example is like if you have 2 days of sobriety, you can help the person with one. If you have one, you can help the person who uncertain they could make it through the hour.
For sure. Guys, we're getting time's moved on. It's been a fantastic show.
It kind of goes quick.
It does. I want to give a shout out to a whole bunch of people. Kenny, thank you so much for joining us. Daniel, Brooke, Lisa, Jitan, Brooke, Jess. Jess said hello a couple of times there. Trinky, you'll be able to see all the comments. Rita, Andrea, Vin. We love you, Vin. Laurie has joined us. Joey, Annie, Kylie, Maddie, Vicky. So many people involved in the show today, and we're so great. And I feel like I really could talk for so much longer. Joey, we usually wrap up. We usually wrap up the show with a bit of a tip, trick, hack for improving happiness and gratitude in our life. If I'll just kick it off with saying that, and it goes back to that lived experience. I feel incredibly blessed as a human being and as a man in recovery that I do have that opportunity to share my truth at the service I work at, which is Glebe House. Any of the boys are watching, please drop your comments. But even more so than that, one thing I noticed this morning, and this is a tip I have shared before, is paying someone, some random person, not so much random, but someone who's had an impact on your life, letting them know, complimenting them on something that they've done. I think it's a beautiful thing as a human being to receive acknowledgement and recognition from someone who they probably weren't expecting it. So paying someone a compliment, what I'm suggesting is that when we give back to others, the universe kind of provides. So that's my tip to improve our level of happiness today. Trinka, what about you? Have you got a tip or a trick or a hack for us to improve our
I don't know. I was sitting here thinking, and I mean, I guess there's a multitude of things that you could go through. But I guess, you know, when you did my intro and you asked me to kind of do a bit of a bio, like one of my things is to just don't be a cunt, you know, just do no harm. Be a good person, you know, smile at the stranger, talk to the old lady that wants to have a conversation with you at the bus stop, you know, buy the guy outside the mall a cup of coffee, you know, that stuff makes me feel good.
It's giving back, isn't it? It's giving back.
It's all about giving back. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Whenever I am in service of my fellow human beings, I never not feel good about myself.
Good old Vin's dropped the Glebe House on your Vinny. We got the Glebe House Mafia. Trinker, absolutely. It really is giving back what was so freely given to us, despite what a lot of people think. I mean, I guess it's all free, isn't it? Like a lot of the information and education and recovery that we've gotten. You know, Joey, what about you, mate?
First of all, I want to mention, like, this is probably a cultural thing, but the word cunt is a lot heavier over here. You guys throw that word around like it's nothing.
You really emphasized it there, Joey.
Yeah, like if that word gets thrown around, there's a fight here in New Jersey.
Really?
So anyway, yeah, I don't know what it is, man. We'll have that. That's a whole nother conversation.
Joey, can I just say,
our viewers,
it's a term of endearment here in Australia.
I know it seems to be that way. It is not.
Yeah, it really is. It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like that here.
I apologize, America.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I just represent it. Don't worry. Okay, so what I want to share today is more of a principle, and it's that you don't need to be feeling grateful to practice gratitude. The practice of gratitude generates feelings of gratitude. For me, it's rarely the other way around. So it's more of a principle, and then timing. Trinka mentions, like, when she wakes up in the morning, you know, that's when, you know, our lower nature or disease is already on top of us, and it's saying that you're not enough. You know, there's not enough time, there's not enough energy, there's not enough love, there's not enough money, there's not enough help. You shoulda, coulda, woulda, blah, 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 blah. So timing is, it's always good thing first thing in the morning to have some sort of gratitude practice, whatever it is. It could be writing things down. It could be giving somebody a call and giving them a compliment, like Danny said. Whatever it is, and it's also, there's some neuroscientific reasons why that is. And our cortisol levels are really high when we wake up, which is the stress hormone, which will automatically start to bleed that negative voice in our head. So that's my tip for today.
Absolutely wonderful. Trinka, season 2, we've just kicked it off. This has been a cracker. Thank you so much for
thanks
being
for having
so brave
me.
And honest.
Thank you so much, Trinka.
My head is just like doing a number on me because I use the C word on.
Oh, no. You are never allowed to own your gifts again. You forget it.
I got a little bit too comfortable. You guys made me a little bit too comfortable.
No, it's totally fine, dude.
That's beautiful to hear. And Trinka, we did say, like, there is no rules. We can
no
do whatever
rules.
we want. And look, it's
I
all
wasn't criticizing you to make you try to feel bad. I'm just starting to realize the more I get to speak to Aussies, that it's just kind of not a big deal.
No.
It's a term of endearment. Who the hell would have known? It's just not the way here.
And Trinka, I love that I'm connected with Joey as my co-host over in Jersey, because I'm absolutely obsessed about America. It's one of my big dreams, is like to head back over there. So we
should switch places, man. I want to go to Australia. You want to come to America? Let's just swap.
Like an exchange student type.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're a bit old for that. It's like exchange
lives.
Yeah, retirements or something for me anyway. All right, guys, thank you everyone for joining us once again. Trinka, thank you so much. Joey, you've been a legend. I love what you do, mate. Until next time, we'll have another guest on next week. We'll see you guys later. Stay with us for a second.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
I'm just going to end this broadcast.
I see some friendly names here.